Typical. You wait ages for a new Mass Effect and then 3 come along at once. Well, not quite, but there are 3 major contenders for Shepard's helmet in various stages of production right now. Alongside the actual next Mass Effect from the studio currently calling itself BioWare, we have 2 complementary visions of spacebound role-playing. Exodus, an honest-to-goodness spiritual redux of Mass Effect Andromeda from actual ex-BioWare devs, and The Expanse, Osiris Reborn, a foray into something resembling AAA from the people behind Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, obviously based on the Amazon Prime series everyone loves but nobody watched. So Mass Effect fans in theory are set to eat very good indeed over the next couple of years, but do any of these projects really have the juice, the massive antimatter reactor up their backsides required to impress fans of a series that is now so old it has become a classic, and therefore remembered with a lot of Vaseline on the lens, its myriad imperfections buffed away by the chamois cloth of nostalgia? Can anything live up to that? It's a difficult question to answer at this stage, having only played one of them, and a small slice at that, but we do know a fair bit about each project and their respective goals. The pitch for The Expanse, Osiris Reborn, feels like the sort of unlikely dream game that only exists in wistful forum threads. Science fiction fans in particular are prone to imagining their favourite shows as BioWare-style RPGs. What if we had a Star Trek game like Mass Effect? Imagine BioWare did a Stargate game, etc, etc. It's not an unreasonable suggestion given how all these things are about visiting a bunch of different planets from a home base, having cool adventures and doing relationships, doing them vigorously and often in Captain Kirk's case. She doesn't look into that, man. So the first thought about Osiris Reborn is, wow, it's actually happened. Popular space adventure show gets BioWare style game. The Expanse doesn't seem like an obvious choice as a basis for this sort of game, given how most of it occurs within a single star system, but the fact that it's a sci-fi universe made up of tiny colonies and orbital habitats may be a godsend for a team tasked with building a Mass Effect game within it. An inner solar system full of prefabs and mass-produced tech, all human-designed and heavily extrapolated from contemporary life. They don't have to figure out what a Quarian glove looks like or a Turian helmet. They don't have to invent the logistics of a society that caters to different breathing requirements. And much of the production design can be adapted from the TV show that already exists. I would imagine, although this is not a given, that Alcat has access to certain production materials that would make that process a bit easier. If not, there's no shortage of reference frames. They're not imagining an entire universe from scratch, unlike the team behind Exodus, who've bitten off a lot more to chew in the grand scheme of genre entertainment. This is a universe that's much closer to something like Dune or Foundation. Earth long gone, humanity spread amongst thousands of stars and starting to evolve into something else. Technology sufficiently advanced to be considered magic. Proper science fiction from when petrol was 9p a litre and your average sci-fi author was taking so many psychedelics that the mushrooms could have sued for royalties. We used to be a real country. So these are 2 visions of science fiction that have a great deal of crossover in their roots, their format, their inspirations, but they are wildly different places to be in. So while they are both looking to capture the same audience, I think there's room for both of them to exist, especially if you consider the insatiable appetite of science fiction fans. And I'm not talking about our eating habits. I know that's the joke you just made in your head. The other thing to consider in determining the juice is that every post-Mass Effect game has to be its own proposition. Neither Alcat, Archetype, or even BioWare themselves can just do Mass Effect again because it already exists. So whatever follows up on it, however directly or indirectly, must be bringing something to the table. In the case of Mass Effect 5, the proposition is simply, you're already invested, this is what happens after the Reaper War. I have to be honest, as much as I love the original trilogy, and I cannot stress enough that I love the original trilogy, I mean, just look at me, I just don't think it's a story that needs to continue. Depending on the ending you get, it can be hopeful or devastating or both, but it is a full stop. So in my view, it's not a great pitch. We'll see, but given BioWare's recent track record, I'm not expecting any juice. I'm expecting, at best, a glass of nice tap water. For both the Expanse and Exodus, the special sauce is in harnessing real scientific concepts as game modifiers. The Expanse emphasises the details of life in space and making them feel correct. This approach has a tactile effect on the gameplay. A big touted feature is zero-G combat, or combat in the vacuum of space, clinging to the hull of a ship or station with mag boots and having a shootout you can barely hear outside of comms chatter and any clang sufficiently big enough to vibrate through your suit. It's an odd experience at first, much like trying to play Gears of War with your head wrapped in a wet towel, which is probably something that someone out there did do. They got the red ring of death and they comically misread one of the solutions.
Wow. You know, it used to be that the infinity of space terrified me.
And when did it stop?
And I realized that actually, it's freedom.
There's an eeriness to the mag boot section of the Expanse demo that really gets across how close anyone in a spaceship is to oblivion. Not that oblivion, but play with headphones on and you'll hear your characters breathing from inside their helmet as if it's your own, which is an absurdly powerful trick to pull while your character is looking up at, say, the planet Jupiter, just hanging there in the sky, all majestic and terrifying, with you stuck like a fridge magnet to the side of a celestial welcome break, in what is a beautifully stark reminder that if we ever do make it to the stars, we're still going to be us. We're still going to be silly bald monkeys eating microwave noodles and watching soap operas while the Jovian rise happens right outside. It's an arresting moment of magic in a cruelly short section of game, one clearly in need of a lot of polish before it releases early next year. Ever since people have gotten a good look at it, a few collective concerns have emerged. Firstly, that it's a bit janky. I can attest from playing it that it's fiddly to control, it feels distinctly unrefined in the hands right now, but that's not really an issue at this stage. It's a beta, this is what betas are like. We're miles out from the polishing phase, whatever. The other major concern is that the voice acting is, and let's not mince words here, f***ing atrocious.
How's your shoulder?
I need to catch my breath.
I'll say, you could have been killed.
The voice work from the lead characters is so flat that more than a few commenters are questioning whether or not it's AI generated. Personally, I don't think so. I mean, ChatGPT didn't invent bad acting, but the studio can hardly blame anyone for that particular cloud of suspicion hanging over its every move. That's an aside. The main point, that the cutscenes are honking, is worrying. It doesn't sound like placeholder stuff to me. This sounds like a final or damn close to final mix.
What's with the new ship in my damn stable?
He said the line like that, and other people heard it, and a manager signed it off?
I want an explanation.
Which bit of Ireland is he from? County Jamaica?
This is insane.
All I know is this project lives or dies on its story. As a gameplay experience, there's nothing particularly special about it. It's one of those games. Cover shooting, light squad management, special abilities with cooldowns, cutting about, looking at stuff, reading things. Every part of it plays exactly as you'd expect from years as a Mass Effect enjoyer. It all works. I'm sure with a year of polish, it'll be absolutely fine. If there are any mechanical surprises in the game, there's certainly no evidence of it in this demo build, but that's fine. It doesn't have to reinvent the wheel, it just has to be good. But even the much hyped zero-G combat seems to mostly manifest as the player character running like she's dealing with the consequences of a boiled egg madras. They're doing some clever stuff, but they're also making some weird decisions. And I like the studio. Their previous and also very BioWare-ish work, Rogue Trader, has a lot of wonderful writing in it, so I have no doubt that Owlcat has the talent on hand to invent a good Expanse story as words on a page. But if the presentation doesn't get a lot more convincing in the final release, that story is going to be obstructed by clouds of guff. Good acting and direction can carry a rubbish script, but it rarely works in reverse. I have some nagging doubts, put it that way, and I'm eager to see what the game looks like in a more finished state so those worries can quiet down. But there is a solid foundation here for a game based on a TV show I greatly enjoyed, that appears to have nailed its atmosphere, its aesthetic, and its permeating theme that life in space will always be lived on the precipice of annihilation because we're patently not supposed to be there, and yet we will persist. So at this point, it's mixed. I think Alcat understands the assignment of that, I never had any doubt, because they're talented people, and they've got a good track record of working their magic within the framework of a licensed IP. But whether it's an assignment they're really ready for remains to be seen.
This ain't exactly easy to digest.
So that's a glass half full of juice, which can be more disappointing than no juice at all, admittedly. Exodus, on the other hand, has much grander ambitions, borrowing the real scientific concept of relativistic time dilation as a narrative device that basically means time passes quicker back in your home world than it does for you while you're cutting about the galaxy doing Captain Kirk. This opens up massive opportunities for the choice and consequence narratives that we all expect now from this type of game. For example, imagine you have a loved one back on... Do you know what? I'm just going to let the guy explain it because he already did it beautifully back in 2023.
You can have the traveler, who you are, journeying to other star systems and then coming back and seeing the impact of his or her decisions over a decade or a century or more. And you can do all kinds of, I've probably talked too much, so maybe I should let you ask another question.
Putting aside the terrifying complexity of that from a development point of view, the RPG implications are delicious. Imagine seeing the consequences of your decisions played out not just in their immediate aftermath, but over lifetimes. On a massive, civilization-altering scale, imagine a society that has to deal with that. How would human beings cope with their lives being lived so asymmetrically, so out of sync? I mean, the hard reality of things like this is that they are constrained by time and budget. So I'm not imagining there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of permutations of the story, but it's certainly interesting from a narrative perspective. What we've seen in trailers looks great. It's a very odd universe with talking bears and pigs and that, which is Russell T Davies as hell, complimentary. Tentatively, I stress tentatively, high juice potential. Like, if it comes together, they'll have so much juice the LAPD are going to end up chasing it in a Ford Bronco. Too soon? All that said, what's really exciting right now is that there are so many space RPGs on the way for all of us nerdy little goblins to get lost in instead of going outside. Have you seen it out there? It's vile. People ask you stuff like, would you like a bag? And other impertinent questions. BioWare may be a shadow of its former self, let's face it, but its legacy shines on in all the teams it has inspired to try and reach its stratospheric highs. And you know what? Let's not write anything off for being a bit janky. The original Mass Effect had plenty of jank, and look where we are. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments if you plan on picking any of these games up based on what you've seen, and as always, like, subscribe, keep it IGN, and check out my playlist, The Trinket Perspective. It's the name of the show you just watched. Ha, got you.